Hello aspirants, welcome back to the daily news analysis of the Hindu newspaper dated November 23rd, 2018. So under the front page we have this, allied with the PDP to safeguard the Jammu and Kashmir special status, Omar. So this is with respect to the ideological differences where they are trying to prevent the tie which had happened back in 2015. So this is with respect to the NC, that's the National Conference, and the People Democratic Party, where they have come along with the Congress. They have launched for a scathing attack on the Jammu and Kashmir governor. So we know that Jammu and Kashmir governor is Mr. Satyapal Malik, where he had an ideology of dissolving the assembly. So we saw the 2 days back as well on this particular move, as the 6 months rule is being done on the governance rule, the president's rule which has to be started. On limelight of it, he was saying that it has to be dissolved with us. So dissolving the assembly. So here it is with respect to those kind of an issues where the NC's Vice President Omar Abdullah justified his temporary grand alliance with the PDP, that's a People's Democratic Party, and Congress to safeguard the special status to what they have been getting from the Jammu and Kashmir with respect to the Article 370 through Supreme Court. So here they have come to an grand alliance, so that they would be able to safeguard the special status of the Jammu and Kashmir, as what the present governor of the RBI is trying to dissolve the assembly on the action. So here the press conference was being discussed on having been questioned on Mr. Malik's rejection on the move of the grounds. So they were also been talking about different political ideologies and the principles which has not been applied. So this is what is being discussed out here. And there is also where there was a time which has been doubled, and they are not with respect to having like other parties cannot come together, and there is a lot of differences among the PDP, NC and also the Congress. So this important issue is what they had to set it on, but here the entire issues with respect to Jammu and Kashmir assembly which has been subjected to the dissolution of the governor. So this extensive horse trading is what Mr. Governor has to say for the same. So it is with respect to ensure for a form of a stable government. So here they are trying to move to the Supreme Court to get and also get the support and to safeguard the special status of Jammu and Kashmir. So this is a continuation news to what we saw the other day. So that's it. So it is about like what is that they want to do on the dissolution to what's going to happen on to the Jammu and Kashmir. And here we have the rupee strengthens to 71 with softer oil fund flows. So this with respect to the currency which is being gaining with 77 paisa, or it might be like 1.07%. So here this has been possible with respect to the crude oil prices which has become softer now, and there is also inflows of the foreign funds. So this too have really helped the rupee to push the gain over 1% over the dollar. And this is also giving an hopes where the current account deficit, that's a CAD, which has been remaining with the tolerance level itself. So with the tolerance within the limit, it will be able to cope up better. So if it's going behind only, the problem would be associated, and this might give a very bad impact on the economy. And this rupee session which has been almost appreciated by 1.07%. So rupee appreciation has been happened, or we can even say as 77 paisa. So this was with respect to the 7th large straight session which has gained the rupee, and apart from that you can also say that the Indian currency is also gained around 3% in the last 3 trading sessions. So when you have to talk about appreciation, so appreciation has been recorded as 5%, but in terms of rupee Indian currency gaining in the last 3 trading session was 3%. And here the Brent crude and the international oil benchmark was also been trading to 0.39%, which was been lower. And if you have to know like what is a barrel of this particular crude oil, then it is $62.85. So the foreign funds they were also had a good number of pouring with respect to stock markets on the based on the net or to the domestic institutional investors, where they even purchased the rupees 49.68 crores. And if you see the foreign funds to what has been poured in the stock markets is rupees 446.24, as the foreign funds has been good enough and the softer oil prices. So this has really helped India and the Indian rupee to gain a strength back. So the currency is being gaining right now. So these are the two important areas why it has been allowed, and now the rupee appreciation has been happening. At the same time, there is also a softer crude oil prices which has been happening around the world. Then we have the next news item which talks about the India and Pak commits to Kartarpur Corridor. So this is with respect to the Dev Guru Nanak, so where they would be celebrating the 550th birth anniversary in the month of November in 2019, that is in the next year. On limelight of it now, there is a letter which has been exchanged to build the construction, that is infrastructure for the Sikh pilgrims, where they would be visiting this particular holy site which is being called with respect to, which is there in the Kartarpur Corridor. So now India and Pakistan, they have come for an exchange of letters where they are committing to build the required infrastructure for a visa free direct travel by Sikh pilgrims to Pakistan's Kartarpur Sahib Gurudwara. So this particular Kartarpur Sahib Gurudwara which is in Pakistan, so with this particular exchange letter, now India and Pakistan, they would be able to come up with a visa free direct travel for by the Sikh pilgrimage to Pakistan. So why are they having this particular letter or exchange letters between the two countries, is because the 550th birth anniversary is due pending on November 2019. So this particular move to what India and Pakistan have, they have come to the commitment of the Kartarpur Corridor, which means that it has been stated that the victory is been coming closer in sense of peace victory for both the countries. And at the same time, they would also be discussing the logistics of the corridor and also the point of border crossing, where which road, which pilgrims that the Indians has to use it to reach the Dera Guru Nanak Dev in the Daspur district. From there, how are they going to take towards the Pakistan side and how they would be directed to the Kartarpur. So this becomes extremely important because they have to ensure the safety of the people who are moving to Pakistan as well. On limelight of it, a proper route structure has to be formulated for them with a proper logistic support. So this is also be discussed, and it's going to be discussed very soon, and how and what kind of routes that they have to take. So this is about it, where India and Pakistan are now coming close to get committed to the Kartarpur Corridor to celebrate the 2019 year with respect to 55th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev. That is basically on the Sikh privileges. So this is about it. And here you have the whitewash. So this whitewash is nothing but a foam which is actually been filled in the shores of Marina, which is in Chennai, that is a Marina Beach. So you could have seen the lakes which is been getting foamed up. Now it is the oceans which is getting foamed up. The reasons for the phenomena is been with respect to sewage is what the experts have been saying. So this is becoming a great alert to the rest of the world to what is happening back to the oceans as well. So this has to be seen at once, and if these foams starts generating more, so we still don't have a solution how to control it. So if it is not being prevented now, then the issues might become more devastating. So this is about it, an alarming sign. And here we have where waste is given new life in the form of an art. So here it is with respect to waste disposal, where it is a very big challenge in India, but right now in Bhubaneswar, by using this particular waste, they have come up with a metal waste. With this metal waste, they have been transforming them to be as in works of art. Works of art is been there. So this work of art, where they are trying to get almost like impressive sculptures which has been created by the metal scrap, and mostly the sculptures to what they have been doing in Bhubaneswar, they are morely concentrating on the birds and animals which like the peacocks, tigers and other things. So this is also one of the area where now the artist network promoting Indian culture, where the forum is now suggesting to hold an international public art symposiums in collaboration with the Bhubaneswar Development Authority. For this has been one of the area where they also been promoting for the Hockey World Cup, which will begin from this particular month of November 28th, so that they are trying to focus it and take it to the international level or forum, where they would be able to use this metal waste, and by opening with a Air Museum of Waste to Art has been 28 sculptures which has been by the 18 artists. So 18 artists have come up with 28 stunning sculptures, and this has been given in the open air museum by the Waste to Art. So this is something where the other rest of the country can also look on for. So these were the important ones in the front page. On the page 7 we have death due to misplaced adventure. So this was with respect to yesterday's news as well, where an American national was killed allegedly by the Sentinels tribe. So this Sentinels tribes is in Andaman and Nicobar Islands, where it is where this person, Mr. John, had illegally entered the protection zone on November 16th. So these people have killed them. You should know who are Sentinels here. Sentinels are actually the Negroto tribe. So who actually live in the northern Sentinel highlands of the Andaman, and they are also been the inhabitants who have been connected to the Jarawa on the basis of the physical and also with the linguistic similarities. So if you see that how are the Sentinels connected, we can connect it to the another tribe that is called as the Jarawa tribe, who are being linguistically similar and also physically they also look the same. So here they are also stating that they have been dominating this particular island for almost like the genome of the tribes with 30,000 years ago, and some of the records says to be as 50,000 years ago. What they have been particularly been in this particular highlands, that's the Sentinels. And they actually, you should know that this particular area of the Sentinels is actually being protected because the government of India under the Andaman and Nicobar Highlands as the protection of the aboriginal tribes regulation 1956, they have declared this particular tribal areas occupied by the tribes as reserves, and they have also prohibited the entry of persons, those with respected to authorizations as well. So photographing or filming of the tribes are particularly in these particular areas is an offence. So as per the act which has been passed in 1956, but here there was the recent areas which has been permitted or it has been given where 28 restrictions areas was been taken out, or they had been given the permitted for the restricted area. So this was till December 31st 2022 if I am not wrong. We have discussed this in the month of August as well, where the restricted area permit is being taken out and now it has been allowed till December 31st 2022. So here the lifting of restricted area permit actually means that the foreigners can go to the islands without the permission from the government. So they need not have any permissions, but there's few areas and few people where the ban which has not been lifted. For example, for Afghanistan's, China, Pakistan and foreign nationals of Pakistan, they have to take the permission from the government. Unless and until they didn't take the permission from the government, they would not be allowed to enter in. So this was the area which was with respected to the news on yesterday's, and you should also know about the RAP, that's a restricted the regulations of it. So here this is with respected to where a person who had actually moved on to Andaman Nicobar Highlands and he was being killed with bows and arrows. So that is Mr. John Allen Chow, who was just 27 years old, and most of the people say that his entry into the Andaman, that is Sentinels Island, was not been actually informed. So either he has been taken any permission. So that details is being given out here. So this is an adventure which has been taken his life altogether. So this is on that. This particular news is that his body is still not been recovered. So again, people would not be able to reach that area that sooner. So that is one of the reasons to why they would not be able to reach this particular place. So his body is not been reached. So here what I have tried to do is I have given yesterday's news content on the Sentinels, and today's also is being covered in this particular part. So this is about it. And here you can just look on to this one, release from the dams didn't lead to deluge. So the entire article says that the devastation which was been back in Kerala in the month of August, they are not been attributed to the release of water from the dams. To whatever the dam water has been released, it's not confirmed to it, because here there were certain studies which was been done by IIT Madras and also the Pune universities of the United States, which says that the flows of the dam water was just 0.6%. So here none of the dams had actually given reasons for the devastation or to the floods which has happened in Kerala. So here you have the details. That's it. They have been talking about few dams and other areas. That's all about it. So you don't have any prominent takeout from here. So you can just go through with that once. And here you have, do you view under trial prisoners as humans? So this is a Supreme Court which has actually been questioning the government, like how are they viewing the under trial prisoners and also the children who have been suffering under the pre-manual conditions. So this is with respect to the people who have been left out in jails and the observation homes as human beings. Are they really being treated like that? Because here the under trial prisoners are almost accounted for 62% of India's prison population. When compared to the world, it is almost like 18 to 20%. Ours is far more when compared to the world average. and this particular issue is being talking like how are these people actually treated, are they being treated on humanistic basis or not. So there were two judges who had actually gone for an inspection to look on to the Faridabad jail, and they also understood that the horror and the living conditions of these particular inmates, and they had also given the kind of an observation that this particular jails and the observation homes were under a pathetic situations, because the taps were leaking, they had no whitewash done, or the sewages to what they used to had the excreta was completely locked, and the toilets were not working at all. So here, to whatever the humanly needs and the safeties and the health as effects that it has to be taken care, was not being taken care with these particular jails, and the people in the jails and the inmates were not being treated as humans. So here the court was actually asking, do those people really have rights? Are you people really even terming to be them as a human beings? Because they also compared it with the influential prisoners like the politicians and also the so-called business people who were able to watch the TV shows in the particular jail, and they also lived a very enjoyable life in the prisons as well. So when an influential person is been getting, so how is he getting? Is he having any special rights? If he is having the special rights, who is the one who has given those special rights? How can you deny the pure rights or the human being structure to what the person has to get even in the inmates? So this is one of the question to what the Supreme Court was asking the government, to what are the officials doing and why the jails are not being taken with the utmost important, or why the things which is not being taken care. So here, why the jailers and the people are not visiting the jails to understand what is the problem being associated with it. So this is a questioning which has been coming from the Supreme Court, the judges who had visited the jail, and at the same time they figured out this is what the problem is with particular jail, and they also questioned and compared with the influential prisoners who are also able to enjoy the betterment or the better life being even in the jails. So this is about it, all about the prisoners as humans, whether they've been treated or not. And here you have the information or the news which talks about shocked Supreme Court terms the state of forensic labs of utter chaos. So this is with respect to the vacancies in the forensic labs as well. So there was a trend where we are seeing the vacancies, and the earlier vacancies was on to the lower judiciary, where the almost a post of 5,133 posts were almost vacant. So now this particular article, news item, shows that there is a vacancy even in the country's forensic labs. So this was almost with the alarming kind of an vacancies, which is actually allowing the courts to get trialed up with respect to lots of trial courts and under trial prisoners are languishing in the jails. So why is this? Because the timely reporting of the forensic labs is not being disposed of, and you should know that the forensic laboratories has to be both at the central and also the state level, and this has to be used to examine the crucial evidences to decide a particular case or a death sentence for any criminal cases. Just because there is a vacancy of these particular laboratories, the forensic labs was not been given on time, or the trial courts was not able to give the punishments, or the people used to languish in the jails for a very long time. So they have a very important role when compared to the emergency of the cybercrime or a drug related offences, or if it is even using the medical evidences to crack the sex crimes. So even to these areas, the forensic labs have not been given with a full employment, rather it's a lot of vacancies which can be seen in this present context. And here you should see the different areas which they have given in different spaces, how much of the vacancies is been given. So out of 6 central forensic science laboratories which is under the Directorate of Forensic Science Services, there have been almost like 164 posts which has been vacant out of 450. So this is with the present information on November 20th, this is what has been shown, and these particular central forensic science laboratories have been located in Bhopal, Chandigarh, Guwahati, Hyderabad, Kolkata and Pune. And when we have to talk on to the CBI's CFLC, then it is almost having 87 vacancies compared to 184 sanctioned posts. Out of 184 sanctioned posts under the CBI, 87 posts are been under vacant. So this shows that almost like 40% of the total 7,582 sanctioned posts in the country across the states are almost being vacant. So this is something which has to be looked on, and this is also one of the reasons to why the cases are not being disposed in a first aspects. Then we have to take on to the state FSL, that is the Forensic Science Laboratory. It is almost like 3,685 vacancies back in. So, which is again a report which shows very clearly that the vacancies are being in an alarming high, and the vacancies are not being filled with the proper forensic persons or the experts who have to ensure that the role to what they have to play is to be played on. And there is also vacancies with respect to 80,000 vacancy when compared to UP in a single state forensic science. So, we know that UP alone has like 80% weightage, and in Bihar, out of let's say total sanction was 191 post, out of that 126 post is almost 3/4 of it is under the vacant, wherein in Tamil Nadu out of 496, 124 are being vacant, and in Delhi out of 318, 78 sanctioned post which has been under the vacancy. So, these are the vacancies in the two prominent particular states where the vacancy is in a very huge number. So, this has to be really taken into considerations, otherwise the things would be worster. So, this is what is being done. So, here the Supreme Court is saying that even this is one of the biggest reasons to why there is a delay in respected to the trial courts or the under trial prisoners, and they have been allowed to stay in the prisons for a very long time just because of the vacancies which has been occurring in different posts. So, this is one of the informations on the vacancies. So, on the page 12 we have EU-UK reach draft deal on post-Brexit relationship. So, this is with respected to the British government, as now they have come up with a understandings, and they have reached to a milestone where the European Commission and the UK and the EU had now agreed to have a negotiator level, and now they have been ready with the in principle draft political declaration where the future relationship between the two sides would be on a proper basis. So, here it is almost like a development victory for the Prime Minister Theresa May, as this particular deal continues to pick part the statement and it has been assessing better. And the EU leaders also wants to finalize the details of both the exit process and also outline the future relations. So, as the draft policy is getting been ready, the EU leaders, they would be finalizing to what is the exit process, how is that the Britain going to exit from EU, and what are the future relationship that they have to maintain in the upcoming years. So, this is one thing, and here Mr. Theresa May also states that this particular declaration was the right deal for the UK, and they have been honoured with the public vote, as most of the public had agreed for the having an exit from UK, that is EU. So, that is how it is called as in Brexit. So, it is all about like it's taking a good grasping end with suspected to it, and most of the anti-Brexit protesters are also been protesting outside the House of Parliament in London. So, this particular agreement is within the grasp, and this is something what Theresa May had looked on for. So, it is like moreover they would be deciding how is that they are going to exit off and what are the future relationships. So, the document details and all is been here. So, this won't be important for us, just know this is what is the development happening on the same. And here you have the Supreme Court spars with the US Supreme Court chief. So, this is with respected to the US President Donald Trump. So, he has become more of embroiled in extraordinary law, and here the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was claiming that the shocking bias against his policies in parts of the judiciary. So, what the judiciary has to be done and other things and all. Now, the judiciary and the President, that is Mr. Trump, both of them are exchanging the words with respected to what to be done and what not to be done, who has to keep the limit within themselves, and why the other interfering in the independent of the judiciaries. So, those exchange of talks has been happening out here. That's it. You don't have any prominent out from there. So, under the business column you have falling crude puts OMC pricing under scanner. So, this with respected to the crude oil prices which is actually been going down. So, this is actually saying that if the crude oil prices is going down, it does not mean that even the oil prices are being completely in sense of petrol prices. So, here the pricing mechanism is so opaque and complex that there won't be a proper way or even to explain how is this disparities been happening, because they are saying that there is a large gap in the extent of the fall when we compare to the oil and to the petroleum prices. because the pricing mechanisms of the open market operations is very opaque and it is also very complex. So here one would not be able to justify or even explain how is this particular kind of differences can actually be seen in the oil and the petrol prices. So here the government was also in the month of October, it said that the excise duty on the petrol and the diesel should be cut with respect to rupees 1.5 per litre, and the oil companies would also administer and cut down 1 per litre, that is 1 rupee per litre cut down should be sold. So this would be able to finance almost like 4,000 to 5,000 crores in this financial particular year. But since October, the Indian basket of the crude oil has been falling with almost like 24% as on November 21st. So when we have to compare from October 1st to the November 21st, the Indian basket in terms of the crude oil, it has been falling to 24%. But we have to compare it with the petrol prices, how much it has been falling. It has been falling with only 8.8% during the same period, that is between October to November, only 8.8% has been falling. So by this we understand that comparatively oil crude prices, which is 24%, which is having a fall, wherein the petrol prices is just 8.8%. So this particular point is where the petrol prices are being set by the Indian, and the manner, the way they set the prices through the open market companies, that's oil marketing companies, is completely different. So this cannot explain just because the oil prices, that's crude oil prices is falling, even the petrol prices has to fall down. So here one cannot expect the petrol prices in India to have a same impact as what the oil prices are also having on the other way. So the reasons for this is simply that because why there should be such a divergence between the prices for such a long time. So the question is, why is this disparity being shown in such a huge differences of 24% and 8.8%, and the divergence between which has been there for a very long time in return. So there would be a reduction where the prices of the oil prices reduce, there won't be the same percentage to what it happens even in terms of the petroleum prices. So this should also ensure that there is a proper Indian basket reviewing on the same, and the reasons for that is that the supply chain of which the crude is one part, there is a shipping also which is being done. They have to do the refining, they have to do the supply, they have to do the distributions, etc. They are relatively fixed cost and they do not vary with just with the prices of the oil. So as the prices of the oil it decreases or falls, these would not be varying. This continues to have a fixed cost. So with this fixed cost, the petrol would not be able to sway as a higher dip as what it can be seen in terms of the crude oil. So here they are also talking with respect to petrol pricing is a complex process as we discussed so far, and apart from that, the international products whose basket we use for pricing petrol products do not move immediately and in tandem with the crude oil prices. So this explains the same issue where the international products are not moving very immediately and it's not making any price per petrol products on a faster basis, or it's not moving in a tandem as compared to the crude oil prices. So there is a lag which has been an arbitrarial change as well in this particular aspects, and the cost which has been included inland cost over and above international products which are actually pricing the products. So OMC bear the cost indulging or including the dealers commission as well. Since the oil marketing companies in India, they also have the prices of the dealers commissions as well. This is also one of the reasons to why there won't be any changes when it comes to the petrol prices at the larger. So on limelight of it, they have given one example here. If the global price is $65 per barrel, then there are transportation cost, cross subsidy losses, handling losses, export parity price, dealer commission, and then the taxes added to this. So by this it is a petroleum ministry is that they are absorbing the rupees 1 cost, but there is no way to tell if they are simply adding this to rupees 1 back into the pricing somewhere down the lane. So this is still not been understood to are they are they absorbing or they adding somewhere over the time. So here the oil prices and also the global petrol prices have been following, but there would be a good time for the OMCs to be incorporating like almost like a 1 rupee somewhat and somewhere, and this will also be cutting the petrol prices by some amount. So this is what they have to do. If somewhere something good has been happening, then the petrol prices also would be reducing to a larger extent. Otherwise, none of the changes would be happening. So the Indian basket crude oil has dropped by 21% of October 1st and 21, whereas the price of the petrol has fallen only to 8.8% during the period. The reason being is that here the pricing mechanism to what has been done in India has been completely opaque and also complex when compared to the crude oil. So the reasons have been stated out here. So this particular article talks only on an surface level on what it is, but you will be getting much of the more detailed articles, then we will be discussing them in detail. So that's about it. And this one, why the RBI board needs to be recast. So this was with respect to the November 19 meeting to what had happened with the RBI and the finance ministry. So the central board had also been called for, and those details has been again given back day before yesterday. We have done it in detail. So this is just a news analysis. So if you have time, you can go through with this. Otherwise, on whatever we covered day before yesterday, we have covered the plenty of it. So you can also skip it if you already have enough notes on that. And here we have the SEBI simplifies the regulations for reclassifying a promoter as a public investor. So here we have the SEBI has now come out with new rules for reclassification of the promoters as public investors. So now it is a SEBI which has come up with new rules, and where the outgoing promoter will have a relinquish special rights as well as control over the affairs of the listed firm and not to be allowed to hold over 10% stake. So this particular new rules states that now the outgoing promoter will be relinquished and he will be having a special rights where he would be able to control over the affairs in the listed firm, but he will not be allowed to hold over more than 10% stake. So this would not be allowed to the promoters to have any representations on the board of the directors, or they would not be able to promote any of it. So the promoters, they would be having the reclassification. They should not have any willful defaulters. If they are the willful or a fugitive economic defenders, they will not be coming under the promoters reclassification new rules. So why is this the SEBI has come up with the promotions reclassification? Because here they want to prevent the outgoing promoters from continuing to exercise their control on the companies either directly or the indirect way. So here most of the outgoing promoters, they would be still having a control on the company directly or indirectly. To control that only, now the SEBI has come up with a new rules for the reclassification, and in order it is also only the complainant listed entities are eligible to apply for the reclassification, and others would not be able to do it, and the complainant with the 25% minimum public shareholding requirement which has been there. And these share, they should not be suspended from trading, or they should not be allowed any outstanding dues to the regulator. So this is something where the SEBI has been looking and giving the guidelines on a proper aspect to what the listed firms has to do on. And in all cases of the reclassifications of the promoters, the proposals which has been need to be placed by the listed entity before the shareholders, and they also have to be approved to the ordinary resolution. Unless and until they have been approved through ordinary resolution, then the reclassification of the promoters would not be coming onto the limelight. So this is about the SEBIs which has come up with more of the regulations for the promoters as public investors who are the outgoers for the same. And under the business review, you had no such prominent newses. And that's it, and these were the important news items of 23rd of November 2018. Thank you.